Hi, this is Sarah Root, and I'm here to discuss religion in schools for Module 4. First, I just want to thank the Board of Education here in Shawnee Mission School District for inviting me to present at this special board meeting about the current state on religion in schools and the laws pertaining to that. I'm going to remain as neutral as possible and refrain from sharing my personal bias to the best of my ability, just as we've all been learning about in our deep equity training here at the district. And just like with any other topic that we discuss here at the board, I do want to center us and ground us in our mission, and that is that each student will have a personalized learning plan that will prepare them for college and careers with the interpersonal skills they need for life success. And as I've been considering this topic of religion in our schools, I do think it falls so closely with those interpersonal skills and students needing to have the opportunity to practice how we interact with each other within this context of belief or non-belief or whatever it is, that we can all work together as a community and that each person makes all of us better. So our objectives tonight, or what we're focusing on tonight, is some background information on religion in schools, and then the most current stance and guiding documents from the U.S. Department of Education on protective prayer and religious expression in schools. So we're going to start on that background information on religion in schools. So religion in schools has been a hot topic, or a topic of conflict, for a very long time. And we first saw the Supreme Court start ruling on those topics back in 1940 with Cantwell versus Connecticut and Everson versus Board of Education of Ewing Township in 1947. And these court cases focused on the First Amendment Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. And essentially what they found is that those clauses apply to the states, not only the federal government. And when we put those together, they say that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So the Pew Research Center pulled all this information together. So starting with those, and then we move into more court cases about more specific topics within schools. And those were McCollum versus Board of Education in 1948, Zurak versus Clausen in 1952, and Engel versus Vital in 1962. And essentially, through each one of those, what we found is that the Constitution does not allow schools to indoctrinate students in any religion. So this led eventually to the Equal Access Act of 1984. So through that act, what they did was, in order to receive financial aid, federal financial aid, public secondary schools cannot or may not discriminate on the basis of religion or political viewpoint with regards to extracurricular activities. So any religion or secular group or political viewpoint, whatever they are, they can all have their own clubs or extracurricular activities. They can't be excluded because they are a particular religion or a particular viewpoint that may not be supported by others. Students have the same access to secondary school facilities as students do to secular activities. And this is during non-instructional time. So the facilities have to be provided equally or in the same ways as a secular group is to a non-secular group. So in more recent years, there's been more Supreme Court rulings. So around the topic of school prayer, the Santa Fe Independent School District versus Doe in 2000. So that court case found that it was not, that school-sponsored student-recited prayer at high school games was not constitutional, was not allowed, and that but Croft versus Perry in 2009, they did find that a moment of silence for a secular purpose was okay. And more, we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Religious activities at school. So the Good News Club versus Milford Central School District in 2001, they found that the free speech clause meant that you cannot exclude a religious group from providing after-school activities. That it's equal. As if you're providing secular groups that same opportunity, then you can for them as well. Child Evangelism Fellowship of Maryland versus Montgomery County Public Schools in 2006. This was about flyers. So if flyers are being distributed to students about other clubs and other activities, then they can also be provided for religious after-school programs as well. So in 1995, there were civil liberties groups that got together and came up with these religious expression in public schools guidelines, and they presented it to the U.S. Department of Education, which then crafted those and sent those out to districts in 1995. They then revised them in 2003, and so these rights of students were provided to districts across the nation at that point in time. And this is from the Pew Research Center. So those guidelines are, if students are acting on their own, they have the same right to engage in religious activity and discussion as they do in comparable secular activities. Students may pray or offer a blessing before meals in school or assemble for religious purposes to the same extent as other students who wish to assemble on school grounds. Students may not engage in religious harassment of others or compel students to participate in religious expression. And schools may not favor or disfavor students or groups on the basis of their religious identities. So the U.S. Department of Education has said recently in 2020 that the Supreme Court has repeatedly held that the First Amendment requires public school officials to show neither favoritism toward or hostility against religious expressions such as prayer. And that is really this, this guiding quote that's leading us through this presentation this evening, and segues nicely into the U.S. Department of Education's guiding document on protected prayer and religious expression in schools. So this document was provided in 2020, just over a year ago, and just some background information here that the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, which is our public education act that gives us the opportunity to provide an equal opportunity of education to every student in the nation, was reauthorized through the Every Student Succeed Acts, ESSA, more recently. And the purpose of this guidance document is to provide information on the current state of the law. And it does also go through and outline why we do this as well. And it's through Section 9524, the certification process, that the local education agency, or the LEA, has to certify in writing that no policy at the school prevents or denies constitutionally protected prayer. And that is tied to that those federal funds that were mentioned earlier in the presentation. And that's part of why this is important for us to know and to keep in mind. So in the governing constitutional principles in particular contexts related to prayer and religious expression, and this part is in particular for students. So students may pray except when engaged in school activities or instruction. Students may read the religious scriptures or text and distribute religious literature to others. Students can pray or study religious materials with others during recess, lunch, any other non-instructional time. They can organize prayer groups, clubs, or gatherings like the prayer at the pole. Student groups can advertise the same way secular groups can, and they also may express their beliefs about religion, their own religion in their schoolwork. So that's art, homework, essays, without any penalty. Now, the same ideas, but in relation to schools. So this is what schools can and cannot do. So schools can have a moment of silence, but they can't encourage or discourage prayer during that time. Schools may allow students to go off campus for religious instruction, and also note that the students can't be penalized for participating in off-campus instruction. Schools may teach about religion, but not provide religious instruction. Schools can also celebrate secular aspects of holidays, but they can't observe holidays as religious events. such as currently, right, we're about to have Easter, and they could celebrate the Easter Bunny and eggs and that part of Easter, but not the Christian connection or any other connections to it. Schools cannot prohibit religious attire. However, they're subject to the same rules as comparable messages. So if the attire is offensive or demeaning to another group, then it would not be allowed, just like if it was vice versa or any other. We want to make sure that our students are in an environment where they feel safe and supported, and that goes for all students. And so that document that was put together and provided by the U.S. Department of Education is the Office of Legal Counsel in the Department of Justice and the Office of General Counsel in the Department of Education have jointly approved this updated guidance as reflecting the current state of the law. So those guidelines are all reflecting the current state of the law. So we currently have here in Shawnee Mission School District one policy about religion, and it's religion in curricular and school-sponsored activities. And I just wanted to refresh our memories of what it is. So this is from October 27th, 2014, and I'm just going to read it so not to lose any important pieces. So, no religious belief or non-belief shall be promoted or disparaged by the district or its employees. Students and staff should be tolerant of each other's religious views. Students and staff members may be excused from participating in practices contrary to their religious beliefs unless there are clear educational issues of overriding concern which prevent it. A parent or guardian or a student 18 years of age or older may request that the student be excused from participating in activities for religious reasons. This is my CLO, or Course Learning Outcomes correlation, to 6.3. This is my relevant statement. This is my reflection and how it will impact the decisions I make as a future school leader. And these are my references. I want to thank the board for inviting me this evening to share, and please let me know if you have any questions, and I'm happy to discuss them. Thank you so much.